Just want to say thank you for taking your time to speak to us today. It's an honor to speak to you. Um, just first of all, how's everything going there in New York?
It's pretty good. We're in the middle of kind of a snowstorm right now. So we've been ordered to stay inside, which is kind of ironic because we've been ordered to stay inside since last year. So
I know it's been a crazy. Hopefully this year will be better, but boxing goes on. That's the important thing right now as well. So
it sure
thank
does.
you. How's training going?
Well, I just started up again last year in March when the gym shut down and kind of boxing shut down. I'm a single mom, so I had to kind of walk away from my training and just work. So pretty much the entire 2020, I was just hustling, trying to teach clients and make money to pay bills. So it's just now after the new year that I started getting back into running and hitting the bag and doing some boxing things, hoping to fight maybe April, May of this year.
Amazing. I saw that tweet. You said, yes, I'll be fighting this year. Was forced to step away from my training in 2020 due to COVID and work full time, but I'm excited to be back in the gym. I was ecstatic. I'm sure a lot of your fans were. We didn't know if you meant MMA or you meant boxing. We were hoping, it doesn't matter. We were hoping for one of them. So
It'll be boxing for sure. I mean, I'm not writing off MMA, but I will say that I've been so far removed that will require a lot more fine tuning than boxing. Boxing is in my blood, it's in my bones, it's in my body. You know, a couple weeks in the gym and all of a sudden I'm right back to it. MMA is going to take me a little while, so I'm probably going to need 1 or 2 ring appearances before we even consider it, think about it, talk about it, or make that call.
So you said you're looking to be out around May, April, May. Do you know if there's a particular show, a particular opponent?
I really don't. I do know that I'm going to go up a couple weight classes and probably come back at like 135, 138. I don't want to come back for a title fight. You know, I'm about 18 months removed from boxing. Like I said, last year, I didn't even touch my gloves for 10 months. So it's going to be a small walk back, crawl back. I'm not looking to jump into any world title fights right away. Like I got to, I'm 39, make sure I still got it, you know?
You look
Yeah.
amazing for 39. No one would have ever thought that. And it was your birthday the other day, right?
It sure was.
Amazing. How was that?
Oh, it was lovely. It was lovely. You get to an age where they just pass and it's fine.
So what made you take that decision to go up a couple more weight classes? Because you're a natural featherweight. Is that a weight that you would love to go back to?
Actually, I won my world title at featherweight and almost died making weight for that fight in 2018. And I don't say that loosely. Like it was like, you know, it was the last year or so of my career at featherweight. It was pretty much carrying me out of the sauna. You know, 3 days, no food, no water. I'm in probably like for someone who walks around at 145 to go down to 126, which is getting really, really hard for me. So I don't even know that it's possible that I can get back there, but I put on so much weight through COVID that I mean, the thought of having to die to make weight is just ridiculous. I think taking some of the pressure off and allowing myself my first return at 135 or 140 when I can really focus on boxing and not so much crash dieting and trying to make weight just to get in the ring. So I want to see what it feels like fighting at 35 and we'll evaluate from there. Do I want to stay? Do I want to drop to 30? Do I think 26 is a possibility? I mean, we don't know.
Have you ever fought at that weight before at
I've
all?
never fought above 126. I did my pro debut at 118. I fought a couple of years at 121 and then went up to 126. And if I'm being honest, I mean, I've never had an easy weight cut in 25 fights. Like I'm a big girl and I think I was just fighting to stay in the smaller weight classes because for whatever reason I had it in my head that that's where I was supposed to be. So I think this 2021 version of Heather, we're just going to be wherever we land.
That's it. Have you been, even though you want to come back at 135, have you been keeping an eye on that division at all?
Yeah, you know, like I said, I'm really not eyeing any kind of, you know, contenders or um, trying to jump in and say that I want a belt. Like I genuinely mean that. I'm not coming from a humble place or from a place where I don't want to talk, but a place of reality. Like I haven't boxed in 18 months. I mean, I would have some nerve to talk about wanting to come after somebody's title when nobody knows what I still got. Like, you know, a nice slow 6-round return, maybe just see if I still know my way around a boxing ring. I think that's the way to start, and it would be foolish for me to even put a path to that.
It's a hot division because you've got the undisputed champion right now. Arguably, it's between her and Clarissa Shields to be whoever's the number one pound for pound. You got Katie Taylor, and a lot of people would say you are not a voice, but the voice of equality in boxing. So, how proud of you to see someone like Katie Taylor to become undisputed champion, to come from Ireland and to go win the Olympics, and then in a short while, I think in 4 years after winning the Olympics from her pro debut, is already undisputed champion.
I mean, I'm really proud of all the girls who went into the Olympics and came out and made a lot of noise and made us girls proud in the pros. You know, they're representing all of us. When people speak in terms of women, especially in boxing, when you have a lot of fans still who've never seen a woman's fight. I mean, I always said this, like when I would fight here in New York, people aren't looking at me and they're not going to say Heather can fight or Heather can't fight. We're representing all women. So if I do bad, people are going to generalize and say, see, women can't do well. And, you know, the girls who came out of the Olympics, Clarissa, Michaela, Katie, like they've all done such a great job representing all of us and are opening doors for the next generation and other weight classes of girls in the Olympics. And it's really satisfying and exciting to see.
How proud of you of yourself that, let's say, you paved the way for them to do this, because in 2016, in the first time in I think 20 years, the first women's fight on television, and you fought against Shelley Vincent, and now you're like, this year Clarissa Shields is having an undisputed fight on pay-per-view, and that was like 5 years ago. How proud of you of yourself to pave that way for them, and also how promoters looked at that and thought, women's boxing is exciting, just as exciting the men, and they should get equal pay as well.
Yeah, I don't think that it's fair for any one woman to take credit. You know, there's a long legacy of female boxing that goes back to the Ann Wolfs and Lucia Rikers and Alicia Ashleys and Belinda Laracuentes that came before me, that paved the way for me. So for me to talk about paving the way, it kind of don't sit right with me, because the way was always there. Like, sure, I carved a few little, you know, things that I got to do first and made a bunch of noise because, you know, I'm this pretty little blonde girl from Brooklyn and got to speak out for women's boxing. But I'm just one girl in on a lot of branches for a very big tree, you know, and I'm proud of all of us. But that's yeah, cool. I am proud of myself. I did something with nothing, but that's like the scrapper in me. I can make something out of nothing.
That's good. It's good to speak up for what you believe in, you know. I'm sure there's a lot of female boxers that were scared to speak up because they were scared of what promoters and the media thought. But
it's what it means to be a female. Women are always afraid to speak up because women have like generations, just we are given one spot and we all have to fight over that one spot. And we're always to feel like, well, if people don't like me, if I say too much, it's easy because there's 20 girls standing behind me who would do anything to get where I am. So you have this one piece of you that kind of wants to hang on to your spot and think that things are going to be better for you. And then the other part is that you're just tired of taking all the shit, you know? And I think for me, you know, my mom taught me to speak so that people want to listen to you. So while I was out there trashing the promoters, I did it in such a nice way that they just kept publishing my stories and giving me the microphone. That when you look back, it's like, wow, that girl never shut up about equal pay.
But it worked, even though I don't think equal pay is there, but the popularity of women's boxing now is just ecstatic. I don't know if you watched it, but last year here in the UK, you had the Matchroom event of Katie Taylor in November, and then all of a sudden the undercards, you had 3 women's world title fights, never done before, and they saw more people tune into these than some of the most of the matchroom events that happened, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's great.
And there's been so many women's fights that have been more exciting than the men's as well. Like, you know, you for example, last year, Natasha Jonas and Terry Harper, the draw. For me, that was one of the fights of the year. That was an amazing fight. And
It is,
I'm sure,
but I mean, we can talk about the evolution of the exposure of women's boxing, which is great. But there's gonna come to a point, and I'm not saying it's right now, but I think we all should be wary of it. There's gonna come to a point where that exposure is really gonna turn to exploitation if women aren't paid the same that men are. And a
yeah,
big excuse that's been made for years and years is that women don't draw the same crowds as men. And you know, the matchroom events over the last couple, you know, from honestly from the Jonas Harper
Terry.
fight straight through when the 3 girls fought on the all-female show. I mean, numbers have been proven over and over and over again. So now, while you hear the girls talk about, of course, the girls are all going to talk about, oh, we're getting paid great. Well, they have to. They have to say that. And like, I don't care how great you're getting paid. You're not getting paid like the men, and nobody's going to convince me of that. Like, I was offered 2 world title fights as an opponent on Eddie Hearn's cards for $20,000. Like, I can't even imagine a boy with a record of 22-1 that was a former world champion to be offered a $20,000 world title fight. So, you know, as much as we can clap, and I get a lot of shit for this. People always talk about, oh, she's never happy. That girl's never happy. But the bottom line is no freedom till we're equal. And while the exposure is great and the publicity is great and all the stuff this girl is getting is great. I mean, Terry Harper had her fight after her last fight, and she tweeted, man, I sure hope someone's going to pay my medical bills. They're a fortune. Before Eddie tweeted back, of course I'm going to pay. Like you're making, you know, if you're making $5 million or $6 million, are you really worried about a $4,000 medical bill? No, she's broke. She's a hungry fighter, and she's done so many things in her great career. So I just say that to say this. It's not my place to be speaking for them, but there comes a time where we can't just be like, yay, women, they're doing so good. Not till we get paid.
100%. And look, there's no one out there that's crazy enough to say, "Oh, she's never happy." $20,000 is not enough, especially.
Oh, trust me, I heard it. I heard it for about 2 months in a row, a couple months ago, when I said something about Eddie Hearn not paying these girls the same, and all I got was shit for shitting on Eddie. But I'm not wrong. Even if they're getting paid a lot, right? Even if they're getting paid more than any other females getting paid, they're not getting paid what the boys are, and that's not fair. I said what I said.
Those are facts. Those are facts. The thing is, it's not going against Eddie Hearn, and it's nothing against the guy because he's an amazing promoter. But the women are getting nowhere near the same pay. And for someone to think that you're going to sacrifice yourself in camp as well for $20,000 is criminal. It's because I interviewed Natasha Jonas last year, and she said that she got offered the fight against you. She said the money wouldn't be enough to be ain't worth being away from my kids.
That's exactly what I said, because I reached out personally to Natasha and said, like, I really want to fight you, but I was offered $20,000. And you have to think of the purses like this: about 35 to 40% of the purse right off management, coaches, gym fees, your corner man. I'm telling you, 35 to 40%. Then it gets taxed. I don't know, like, overseas about the taxes, but my paycheck gets New York taxed. And like 30 to 40% of it is gone there. A $20,000 check, I'm lucky if I have 4 or 5 grand out of it. I'm lucky to have that. And in New York, my rent is $4,000 a month. So we're talking a month's rent. Maybe I get to take my kid on a shopping spree and put some money away for bills. $20,000 is not a lot for me to go 8 weeks deep. Like she said, I miss my kid. I miss my house. I put my body at risk. Like, yeah. I've gotten to the point where I'm not going on a diet for $20,000, let alone go through a fight camp and fight overseas.
Exactly. If it was in New York, it's still not enough. But the fact
It's
that
still
it's
not enough, but then I get ticket commissions and stuff. I fight at the Garden, I fight at the Barclays. I'm almost guaranteed an extra $5,000 to $10,000 in my purse just off the gate because I sell $40,000 in tickets, and I'll get
yeah,
commissions from the venue. So right off the gate, I'm like, okay, I can make an extra $5,000 on ticket commissions. If I do a couple of bar promo parties, I'll get some kickbacks from the bar fees and stuff. It's like I can make money in my city. You want to fly me over there? Get out of here. Give me a break.
but out of curiosity, would the plane ticket would have been paid for you, or
Yeah,
you had
I'm
to?
sure it would have. I'm sure the ticket would have been paid for me in my corners. I'm sure the hotel fees were, but I mean, who gives a shit about that, right? Like, if you're paying me six figures, fuck, I'll pay for my own hotel. I
That's
don't
it.
care.
It's a shame because us boxing fans who are big fans of your career, it means by Eddie Hearn offering you or any promoter offering you peanuts, that basically not enough money. We don't get to see you overseas, and
Yeah.
I think us boxing fans ourselves are losing that. Well, but still, the equal pay needs to happen in boxing because if certain fighters, name and no names, coming from MMA to the boxing scene and they're getting 10 figures, and the ones that are putting all the work over the years into this sport are just getting nothing. It's a bit unfair. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, but females as well. That
Yeah, it is unfair. But again, it's like if that's what I'm valued and that's what Eddie thinks my worth is, that's fine. But it's really up to me to decide whether or not I value my body, my career, my time away from my family, my money away from, value that of myself. And I just, the risk and the reward for a $20,000 paycheck that really would equate to about 1 month's rent, this doesn't do it for me.
100%. Have you had any more offers from the UK for this
Oh
year?
God, no. After I talked all that shit about Eddie Hearn, he'll probably never want to talk to me again. But I also made it really clear that I'm not going to settle for a shitty paycheck, and he can still get girls to fly in and fight his girls for that kind of money. So it's like I said in the beginning, there's one seat and there's a line of women who are just dying to have it. So, you put your value on that. Like, you got young upcoming girls who are like, well, if I take this 20,000 and I beat her, then I can turn that money into something else. And then you have veterans like myself who's like, that's not going to happen. So,
Especially
yeah.
if those women are from Europe, it would be more
Yeah.
20,000 to them because a plane ticket would be like $200, for example.
But it's the same thing. It could be an American girl. Maybe if she's single with no kids and living in a place where her rent isn't that high and she's not in debt and she's not putting kids through high school, sure, 20 grand might seem like a lot, because why not? What else are you doing? But I'm a grown woman. I'm a mother. I'm running a family. My daughter's getting ready to go to college, So,
Amazing. Let's talk about MMA. You had your debut for the Bellator in 2017. You won by TKO. Straight afterwards, they asked you before that you said, "I think I fell in love." Is that love still there for MMA? I know
I love
that boxing's in
competing.
your
I love
blood.
competing and I love fighting. I really do. I love competing and I love fighting. Um, MMA is challenging for me. My coaches are about an hour and a half of a transport. And because it's such a, like, when I go to my boxing gym, I'm right up the block. It's a 5 minute walk. So if I have to go 2 or 3 times a day to prep for a fight, it's easy. I would go to my MMA gym. I'd have to work full time still. I'd be working my job here in Brooklyn and then hop on, a bus, 2 trains, go over to Long Island and train over there. And I would be getting home at like 10 o'clock at night, like have to get up for work the next day. It's just exhausting, draining. I love to compete, but the prep work is so much, so much.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But could you ever see yourself in the cage again one more time?
Sure. I mean, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. If they're going to offer me something good, okay. But it's got to make sense, right? Like it's got to make me money, and I have to feasibly be able to get the training in, get the weight down, and be able to hop in the cage thinking to win. I'll never take a fight not expecting to win. So
But I'm guessing if you did, seeing as you said you don't want to put your body through going to featherweight in boxing, you're definitely not going to go to flyweight in, right?
Well, it's the same weight class, 125, 126, same difference. I mean, like I said, I got to get down, to do a 35 or a 38 fight. And I'll be able to evaluate from there what the weight cut was like, what losing was like, what I think I'll be able to do. For the last 10 months, have been eating like a toddler, just not working out, eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Like I gained a ton of weight. I'm just living life like not a not athlete, and I'm just getting back into it. So I won't say yes or no and close or try to open any doors.
Let's talk about the women's division fighting up. A lot of title fights that's going to happen. You're going to get the McCaskill break 2 fight. What did you think of the first fight? A lot of people criticized it and said it was boring. Do you agree, or was it the fight that you expected?
It was the fight that I expected. Cecilia is a very disciplined boxer. McCaskill is known to come forward a lot. She's an aggressive puncher, and you knew it was going to be an exciting fight for boxing fans because we would be watching technique and to see what is going to come out on top, technique and skill, or just that pure raw will to win. So for me, I enjoyed watching the fight. I'm looking forward. I think that Cecilia has learned some things, and she also kind of came right out and said that she wasn't mentally right for that fight. And I know like the press hates to hear things like that, but as a fighter, I can tell you that that's really a serious thing, being in the locker room and having your mind elsewhere because of real life stuff. Like it's a real thing for performers. So I'm kind of looking forward to see, if she can get her belts back.
And then we get a trilogy. So it's a win-win for the fans.
For sure.
The featherweight division is hotting up. Obviously, we spoke about her already, Terry Harper. You got the Korean boy, and then Mikel Mayer, and then Hamaduchi from France. And it's like they're thinking of doing like a 4-way tournament, 2 to fight, and then 2 in the final. Obviously, the fight that everyone wants to see is Mayer versus Terry Harper. They have a little beef on Twitter, calling each other out. How would that fight go for you, and would you like to see that fight?
Yeah, I think it would be a great fight. I mean, I don't see any of those girls beating Michaela. She's very strong. She's young. She's hungry. And certainly not to take away from Terry. I respect her a lot and I love her boxing, but yeah, I don't see any of those girls beating Michaela.
Okay. The last fight is here in England, I don't know if they speak about it in America, is the amateur rematch between Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. Savannah Marshall won her world title just now in November on the Katie Taylor fight. For years, these girls have been calling each other out, and Savannah always reminds Clarissa how she beat her in the amateurs. Even though Clarissa right now is probably pound for pound number 1, especially if she now becomes freeweight world champion in her next fight. How does that fight go? Is Clarissa Shields the real deal?
I think that Clarissa has a lot more pro experience than the other girl, but if I'm being honest, I've never seen Savannah fight. So I'm super partial also to Clarissa because I've personally seen her train. I know her personally, and I know how hungry she is and her will to stay on top. And sometimes when you got that, it don't matter how good the other girl is. I mean, Clarissa's a force. You just being around her, you can feel that she is legit. So it's exciting, like an exciting sell, right? Because she can say, I beat Clarissa once, but I don't know, maybe I'm just the biased American. I don't see anybody taking Clarissa's though.
It will be an exciting fight to see. Hopefully we can see that soon, because there's so many fights one wants to see and we never get it done. We saw Mayweather Pacquiao too late. Hopefully we don't see Crawford and
that's how boxing is, right? It's always too late.
Exactly.
Where it happens and you're like, wow, this would have been a great fight 2 years ago, but now who cares, right? So
exactly, as long as we get to see it. Before I let you go, there was one more fight. I asked all my guests because They say it's going to be the biggest fight since Ali Frazier, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. Are you looking forward to this fight? Have you seen both fights before?
Oh yeah, I've seen both fighters. I mean, I don't know. I like Fury for the fight. He's got a lot more style. I love how he so effortlessly gets in people's heads, and he has too much fun boxing. You know, like he has too much fun boxing, and we already saw Joshua get dropped. That's not really a good quality to have as a fighter, right? Like you get dropped. Sure, it could be a lucky shot, but you're telling people where that off button is, so you
As well.
don't like to hear that. I'll tell you though, if you would have asked me a year ago or a year and a half ago, I would have said Joshua. Like for a while I thought he was just unstoppable, and you see one weakness, sometimes it's like, oh, that's the book on that guy.
There you go. 2021 is the return of Heather Hardy. Do we see you once this year, or do you want to be active this year?
I'd like to do maybe a 6-rounder and take it from there. I mean, it would be really nice to maybe do something small twice just to kind of fine tune. Like I thought about maybe going from 35 to 38 and then dropping down 30 to 32. Just like, doing 2 fights like that, just to get kind of back in the swing of it. But, it's all availability. Who can I fight? What shows can I fight on? One thing during Corona, I thought, don't put too much pressure on myself.
Yeah.
Don't put a timeline on myself. I already spoke to Lou, and Lou says it could look good for April. So to start training, and I didn't ask any questions, just got back to the gym. And, him and I have a really good rapport. And don't believe that he would call me with that kind of info if he didn't really have it. So I'm just staying busy working, and hopefully I have some good news to drop on everybody soon.
We can't wait. And what version of Heather Hardy are we going to see compared to the ones we watched before? Are we going to see a Heather Hardy?
Oh, it's going to be a surprise for everyone, including myself, right? I think what I've done in the last year is, because I stepped away from training boxing, I've been teaching it, and I've really become a student of the game, studying like, how can I teach my girls? How can I teach my students? I've been a boxing teacher for the last year, so my body's away from it, but my mind is a bit smarter and grown and knowing what I have to do. So, I hate to call myself a veteran, but I guess at 39, what else could I call myself, right?
You have experience in the ring, and you have an amazing record, 22-1.
Yeah.
You have a better record than most of the men and the women. So
yeah, so I think I'm going to bring a seasoned athlete, like a seasoned veteran into there, like smarter. I might not be as quick, and I ain't even going to say that. Fuck that. I'm going to be everything.
Amazing. Heather, I want to say again, thank you for taking your time to speak to us today. It's been an honor to speak to you. I've watched you from your pro debut to your last fight, and I can't wait to see more of you this year. And you know what? Fuck it. I hope you become 2-time world champion, because you deserve it.
I hope so too. That would be nice. That would be nice. Thank you so much.
No problem. I can't wait for fight news, and hopefully we could catch up soon later on in the year.
My promise. I get some fight news, I'll come back on. We'll talk about it.
Amazing. Thank you. Stay safe. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.